Hello, everyone, and welcome to Galit Speaks podcast. It is my slumber party edition. I am here with Rob, Nix, and Minxy, and I thought that today would be like a perfect day to kind of do a fun edition where we talk about like the queer community, we talk about like the family that we have created for ourselves, and you just get a sense of like who we are, and also that alternative communities are not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't mean, being queer doesn't mean you're promiscuous. Being queer or in a queer or alternative community doesn't mean that you're a bad person, does not mean that you're in a cult. And like I wanted to introduce you to some people who are my really good friends, and like we're normal, just a little bit different. So I welcome you, and I hope you enjoy today's podcast. Hi. So, what do you consider yourself when somebody asks you like what, you know, define yourself? Who are you? What do you stand for? Like, what's the first thing you think of?
Are we talking like, did I meet them on the street? Did I meet them at an alternative party?
I mean, what do you want the viewers to know about you?
Do I have to go first?
I mean, I will go.
Yeah, you go.
I want to be known as somebody who like stood in their authenticity, that I'm a little bit different, I'm a little bit weird, I'm definitely queer as fuck. I'm also like a little kinky. I have a different kind of idea on how a relationship should work, a different kind of idea about what a family is. I mean, I do have my, biological family, but they are not necessarily the people that I turn to for emotional support. And I feel like this community has been more of the place that I go to because they actually accept me and understand me as I am, and don't judge me for who I am and what I stand for, and how I look and how I act and who I choose to love.
I think that was really well said. In that vein, I similarly have my chosen family surrounding me, and I feel like this year really I am starting to live more authentically. I'm trying to be more out because I did grow up as a good little church girl. And so I always had two personalities. I had one that was on my inside, and then in my conservative community and surroundings, I always had to be perfect. I had to be the perfect student. I had to be um, all these things. And this year, as you know, was a really tough year for me because I think this year I did try to be more authentic and more out. And I had really tough consequences. I had people close to me, really, really, really close to me. My family kind of decide that who I was not in harmony with, well, I don't really still don't. I still haven't processed exactly what happened, but I learned that I couldn't be myself. And I also decided that I can't not be myself. So I decided that I am me. I'm going to be more open, and I started surrounding myself with people who accept me. And I met people who are also more out, and they inspired me, like Minxy. Minxy came into my life this year, and I just gave a totally run-on sentence, but who am I was the question, And the answer is I'm finally choosing myself. I'm finally choosing authenticity. And I guess we shall all see who I am.
I like that. I feel like who you are is a constantly evolving thing. So it's nice for you to kind of be very open that it's not like a concrete, I am this and I will remain this forever. But like it's evolving.
I'm not even the same person through the whole day. Like I just put on these earrings and these leggings and I'm totally different than who I was when I woke up. So
yeah.
It's like an Alice in Wonderland quote, I think.
Right. I guess I'll go next. The question is, who am I? I want to be a person who values connection, genuine connection with those who are close to me, and to remain authentic through those experiences, and all of that through the vehicle of kink and BDSM.
Yes. What about you, Rob?
Your turn.
Who
are you?
Who am I? So, a while ago, I'll say I didn't know who I was until I started to experiment and try different things. And it was able to help me concrete, like, to know, like, what I like to do. And it made me, I say, like, a happier person compared to before. Because when you're not sure what you like, is sometimes will make you feel down because you're wondering like what's actually out there. And once you actually start exploring, the journey is fun. It helped me at least develop who I am as a person. It just made me more, I guess, open-minded and more social.
I like how you gave it was a simple question. It was who are you? And all four of us have like answers that are all across the board. I don't think anybody can answer who they are.
Yeah, well that's like the beauty of it, right? Like it's a simple question, but there is no simple answer because we're so multifaceted as human beings that like it doesn't make sense to just have like a community that supports you in just one aspect of your life. Like we are, we have so many different parts of us, and if we are stuck with just like, okay, just my family because like blood is thicker than water, like that's my support system, but like let's say they don't necessarily vibe with who you've become or who you're trying to be or how you view yourself, like that's so limiting.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are able to like explore and find a community and find a support system that like accepts every little piece of you, that's real family, that's real community in my eyes. And honestly, like I have seen over the years that those are the people that show up.
They do.
Like I will say that the majority of my biological family didn't even come to my wedding. Nix came, Rod came, they showed up for me.
Savannah didn't come because they weren't friends yet.
I didn't.
She probably would have been there.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, people will show up for you when you connect on a different level, when you connect on a level that's not just about like, oh, I'm related to you, so I have to love you. Because guess what? Sometimes you don't like that person. And you shouldn't have to like be forced for that to be your family if like you just don't get along. Like I want to be happy in the happiest moments of my life. I don't want to be
I want to be kinky in the best moments of my life.
Yeah.
The best moments of my life are kinky. So
yeah, so let's talk about that. Like
let's talk about kink.
Yeah, because a lot of people think that like, oh my god, kinky, you're in like a weird sex cult, you're crazy, you're not normal, there's something wrong with you. Like, what else have you heard? What are the reactions?
Okay, definitely people are really intimidated and they think it's super scary and super dark and like intimidating and also really sexual and super dirty and pornographic, which is funny because the vast majority of my kink is not sexual at all. Not that it's a bad thing, but I just want to put it out there that one does not equal the other. And if you ever do go to a dungeon, it may look dark, but genuinely, it is the most wholesome place I have ever seen. Maybe people are wearing scary latex or spiky boots, but there is so much negotiation, communication. People are out there and they're being themselves, and that requires being vulnerable. It also, if you're at a kink dungeon and you see somebody who's crawling in diapers or uh, you, you know, that's what they came out here to do, and you're there too, and you just look, you appreciate it, you appreciate how many wonderful different types of humans there are on this world, and they go their merry way, and I love that. I love that you don't judge. Maybe somebody's over there wearing something you never even thought, and be existing in a judgment-free space where everybody makes sure that you're comfortable. Hey, is it okay if I sit next to you? Even before they shake your hand or before they hug you, they'll ask, is it okay if I hug you? Oh my gosh, where was that when I was growing up and getting, sexually assaulted in college? Like, please. So, yeah, wholesome, consensual, and just there's a whole thing in kink that's called aftercare, and that literally means that you have to take care of your partner and make sure that they come back to a happy, cared for state. Oh my goodness, it's just so intimate and wonderful. So yes.
Yeah, I have to say one of the biggest things that I appreciate about like the kinky queer community is consent. Like that is something that in like heteronormative communities it's talked about, but it's not necessarily practiced. Like there have been, I remember going to like clubs and bars, and in that situation, you're constantly being pulled, tugged, touched, grabbed, preyed on. You know, like people are, you can see like people who are like clearly intoxicated being taken advantage of.
It's like a game.
Yeah.
Like, how many drinks until you go home with me, baby? And it's like,
exactly.
What? That's not how it works.
That shit does not fly in like a kink community. That shit does not fly. Like there's a place in New York that I used to go to all the time called House of Yes, and that was just like a regular kind of like alternative type nightclub where they had theme nights. They were very like sex positive, a little bit kinky, but they also had something called like they were consentacorns, and like literally you were given a speech before you were allowed to go in, like you cannot touch anyone unless they say yes, and if you are seen doing that, no questions asked, you are fucking kicked out and you are done. You cannot continue your night. And like I appreciate that, and I feel like that's the idea in the kink community of like, hey, everything must be consensual. You must have open dialogue. Everybody needs to be aware of everything that's happening, because you cannot just fucking come up and like grab somebody, touch somebody, make them feel uncomfortable, because that's not what this space is about. This space is about, like, as you said, like a no judgment, comfort only zone.
It's also a privileged space. Like we are all privileged to be there. So we honor that privilege by not doing anything that might jeopardize that or
I want to say something about the yes. It's actually a specific yes. It has to be like a hell yeah.
Yeah.
If the person's like a hesitant, like, yeah, they're uncertain and nervous, and that's taken as a no. in like the actual community.
If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Everybody knows that. It's like a thing you say.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's enthusiastic consent.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so many times in my life, like, it's been, like, forced consent.
Well, that's the
You know?
majority of my vanilla experiences before.
Yeah, it's been like this, I'm gonna, like, break you down until you finally consent, and then it's gonna be, like, lackluster. And that's not the atmosphere that leads to an enjoyable time. Right? Like,
Maybe even if it is an enjoyable time, it's very short-sighted. Because
Yeah.
then you wake up in the morning, you're like, huh, shouldn't, that was, or sometimes you don't wake up in the morning. Sometimes it takes you 10 years and discovering that an alternative community before you realize, wow, the other stuff probably wasn't that great.
yeah. I think also what I really like about this community is, like, so in your normal community, like, you hear about, like, people cheating all the time. And, like, it's, like, a known part of the community. And I love that this community is just, like, so open of, like, just fucking say it. Just, if that's the life that you want to live, like, if you want to love multiple people, if you want to have multiple partners, that's fine. We just need to be open and honest and have, like, a real discussion about it. And, like, it's a different feeling when things are all out in the open and things are, like, honest and, like, transparent versus when, like, you're being blindsided in a relationship. I've had that where, like, I was in a relationship with someone and, like, you get pictures of them having sex with other people in the fucking mail. Like, that shit happened to me, and, like, if they had just been honest about who they were from the get-go, like, that wouldn't have been an issue. Like, that wouldn't have transpired because, like, I would not have been in that relationship.
Well,
Right?
just to draw a line, like, cheating still happens.
Yeah.
Nobody's immune from cheating, but I think that the kink world of kink, and I think that the world.
Sorry about that. I got a phone call. We're doing this on my phone because we were, like, at a convention where we were promoting diversity. So it's been, like, a little that this week's session is a little bit weird.
It's
But-
cool. I like this vibe.
Yeah.
I think that the world of kink and the world of polyamory stress the importance of communication between partners because you can't have good kink without having complete trust and complete. There is bad kink. Okay, guys, don't get bad polyamory too. But I think that's also remembering that this relationship is a privilege. It just goes back to.
Yeah, and people are going to mess up, like, and you have to, like, allow them space to mess up. But the idea is, like, your communication is enough so that when somebody does mess up, it does not mean the end.
You have that trust, and
Yeah.
you give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. So it's not that, like, again, it's not, like you said, it's not like that cheating doesn't happen. It's just that's not what that's not what's accepted, that, like, people are just gonna cheat and, like, we're not gonna talk about it and we're just gonna, like, pretend that it's not happening, that, like,
Yeah.
It's behind everybody's back and, like, nobody knows about it. Like, it's more of that feeling of it's gonna be open and we're gonna have an honest communication, and if shit happens and something gets fucked up, we are gonna talk about it. We're not just gonna, like, destroy the relationship and tear it down to the ground.
Yeah.
Good things.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to play the devil a little bit. How much room do you give someone, and how many times like they could mess up?
Yeah.
You give them room, because if you give them no room to mess up, then they have fear of messing up, and they don't actually get the pleasure of enjoying themselves doing that thing, because it's overshadowed by the fear of, oh my god, but if I stray just a little bit, my partner will kill me. So you have to give them enough room to where they can enjoy whatever they're doing, whether it's a new kink activity or whether it's going on a date with a new partner and you're starting out polyamory. You give them enough room that they know that you'll be there waiting for them when you come home. And, not that, like, you go on a date and you do something wrong and then you're broken up with, right?
Yeah.
But, so then you come home and maybe you crossed a boundary that we hadn't discussed on this date, or maybe you did something during the scene. We can't be punitive about it. Like, I can't punish you, because then that ruins our relationship. But you have to listen to me and where I had a problem. And the next time you are presented with the opportunity to do better, do better. Okay. If you do the same exact mistake twice, it shows you're not listening to me. And come on. But I never said like be perfect next time. I just said do better, and do better enough that I don't have to like be like.
And I think it also comes down to the attitude of the person that messed up, right? It's, are you upset at yourself that you messed up? Do you understand that you messed up, and does that bother you?
Well, more of like, do you understand why I feel hurt?
Yes.
Not, because nobody just messes up. Do you understand why your actions caused me pain?
Exactly.
And sometimes maybe Robbie just did something completely innocent, but it brought me pain regardless. Sometimes I need to unpack that pain because maybe that's within me. But I'm not going to be able to unpack my own pain if he gives me like, well, maybe you shouldn't feel that way. That's not going to, I need a good environment to be like, maybe we can talk about how I realized that was a trigger for me. But like I said, we can't have that growth if we're fighting about it.
Yeah. And I think that's important to note that, like, there are 100% going to be things that trigger you. There are, like, 100% going to be times where you're just like, oh, fuck, that just happened. I'm not cool. I don't feel good right now. And your partner has to be supportive in that moment and has to give you the space to, like, work through it. And that's how you know that you're in, like, the right relationship for you, when you have that communication, when you have that openness, when you have that support, even in those times when you're triggered. Because I feel like have been so many times in other relationships that weren't part of this community that, like, I felt triggered, and then I felt gaslit, and then I felt like it wasn't taken seriously, and that just meant that I was with the wrong person, and that we just did not have the right tools and the right communication.
I believe, like, if you care for someone, you put in the work. Like, you make them happy.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be with them. Both people have to put the effort in.
Yeah. I have two partners, two main partners. I do play with others, but I know that I have to maintain both relationships, and I'm like, I was partners with Robbie first, and when I added this new partner to my life, I knew that I can't just like run off into the sunset with her. even though there's lots of dopamine that floods your brain and stuff. I know that I have to tend the garden at home for that. And we always make that metaphor because I'm never going to find a partner. I mean, I don't know, but I have such a precious jewel who lets me do this and explore myself. How could I possibly how could I possibly ruin this relationship, over something? So, a lot of people don't understand alternative communities. I think kink, polyamory, queerness. I find that not all of us are, all of us are queer because queer is anything that's alternative. So, but we find each other, we understand each other, we don't judge each other, and that's really hard because I closet myself in many circles because I know when somebody finds out that I have two partners, I don't know, I don't need them thinking about me in ways that they will, unless they subscribe to my channel.
But I think also the idea is that the community is so diverse, and like, you don't have to have the same kink. You don't have to be the same type of queer for it to work as a support system, for it to work as a community. Like, that's what I love about it. Like, you can have, you can have a kink where it's completely opposite to like my kink, but we'll still get it, right? Because
I'll still give you the space. I'll still say you do you.
Exactly. Like you said, like, my kink is not necessarily somebody in a diaper crawling on the floor, but I get it. Like, whatever.
You're happy for them.
Right. Like, I'm happy that you are doing what's good for you. And I'm happy that you are, like, giving me this space and letting me be seen doing what's good for me. And I think that's ultimately what we all want as humans. Like, we want to be seen. We want to be comfortable. We don't want to be judged. And we want to just be allowed to be who we are. And I think that's what's, like, so special and such a privilege to have.
One of the things I've learned from kink is every person has like their own different aftercare methods. Like, because sometimes, like, if you're doing a scene with somebody, you might want to, like, if you're you're flogging them, and after the scene, you might want to, like, hug them, cuddle them to make them, like, feel better. But sometimes, like,
I don't like cuddles.
Yeah. Like, Nyx wants to be in the corner by herself, away from everyone.
With a blanket and some water. But I think you're saying it helps you appreciate how different people are.
Yeah.
And how you can't speak your language with everyone. Sometimes you have to. It's not like, I always hear the golden rule, and they say, "Oh, treat others the way that you would like to be treated." And the golden rule sucks because the actual golden rule, the platinum rule, is treat others how they would like to be treated.
Yeah.
So save that one and hold on to it. And I don't know, but that reminded me of what you were saying.
Yeah, I think that's, like, important to note because there's this thing, I'm sure you guys have heard, like, love languages, right? We all have the ways that we express love and the ways that we want to feel loved. And the same thing about, like, aftercare, and the same thing about, like, kink, and, like, we all have, we want to be seen in our truth, in our authenticity. We don't want to be, like, given aftercare that soothes you and not me. Like, I want my needs to be met. I want my needs to be appreciated, to be recognized. And I think that's what's so important.
Isn't that so? Okay, so some of you watching, this might be your first time hearing about kink and like what actually happens. Maybe you thought that it's just people getting spanked, and but isn't that so wonderful? The fact that you negotiate what you're going to be doing. Okay, so is it cool if I don't know, you tie me up and then I don't know, hit me a few times. So you negotiate exactly what's going to happen, and then the scene starts. It's called a scene because it has a beginning and an end. And at any moment during the scene, you can say yellow to slow down, or you could say red. That's usually the safe word, the standard safe word. And red means, whoa, like something I don't like just happened. And immediately the scene stops and your partner checks in on you, like, whoa, like, do you not like being tied up? Do you want to get out? Or, so there's always an out. And then after the scene completes, there's aftercare, which is I take care of my partner. And usually we'll talk about how they want to be taken care of. And then we talk, hey, did I respect your boundaries? Were you happy with that scene? What can I do next time? Imagine that every couple that's like in couples therapy or getting divorced right now, imagine that they did that every time that maybe they, were intimate with each other. That every moment with your partner had, hey, let's discuss what we're going to do. Let's do it. And then let's take care of each other. Oh my gosh, who even takes care of their partners anymore? Like back in my vanilla life, you would just like roll over and like do the deed and then just follow. It's really, that's what I meant when I said it was wholesome. So
Yeah, it's like refreshing almost because like it's about making sure that everyone involved has their needs met and addressed and recognized. Like
the connection that Savannah was talking about.
Yeah.
Even with like negotiations, like it's always in the beginning, and it's good to actually know, especially if people want to get into kink, to know you negotiate in the beginning, and wherever's there stays. Because if you're going to if you're doing like a vlog scene, spanking scene, you hit something called subspace, where it's like a type of high, and your mind is like not there. So sometimes like
you enter a different mind space.
Different mind space, and sometimes you're more willing to do things.
You're caught up in the moment.
Yeah, you might not have before. So like that's like one of the things.
So the golden rule is you don't switch. Yeah. In mid scene, you end the scene. Talk.
Right, exactly. Like if there's an issue, you end it. You're not gonna like renegotiate during the scene. Like it's always, no, we're gonna do this when we're both in the correct headspace.
Yeah.
When we're both at like full faculty and like understanding how it's going to affect us.
I say that because especially with the new people, because sometimes they'll have someone that will try to take advantage with them, and like you sometimes like you hear about it, sometimes like you kind of see it, and one of the best things about like the actual community, everyone will tell you who it is.
Community protects itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many, because it's such a space where people can get taken advantage of. I feel like the community goes to extra lengths to create barriers and protections. Like, especially with like dungeons and places like that, like
I volunteer as a monitor.
Yeah, there are monitors. There are like people that make sure that like everything is consensual. You know the rules. You have to like go through an orientation sometimes first.
Get vetted.
You have to like, and like once you've crossed the line, you're out. Right? Like
it's hard to it's hard to gain trust back.
Right.
It's not impossible, but it's hard.
But yeah, and that's why like people think twice.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're not going to be reckless. Exactly. Because like you understand that you've worked hard to get into this place. You have gone through the steps to be here, and you're not wanting to lose that privilege.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think what viewers could take away is that here's our community, and we're intentionally creating these like safe little boxes. Like the dungeon is a safe box where all types of people go, and we're all safe because we're in this privileged little box. The scene itself is a special little box of safety that you can explore. Like maybe I want to try playing with fire for the first time, and we create this box of safety and rules that now we can feel free to explore. And I think that kind of takes us full circle to here's an alternative community. When I see other queer people, no matter what, are they trans, are they non-binary, are they polyamorous, are they queer people come in so many different shapes, are they asexual, and everybody holds space and understands that's you, I honor you. And so it's also your own safe, I'm not going to say it's a box, but it's a safe space. So it's like, I see, isn't that, I see you and they see you. And it's hard to be out sometimes, because then you have people who don't understand the sacred box, and they think, oh, you have a latex fetish, and you're not, then you're seen by somebody who sees you in their lens, and that safe box of I don't judge you sometimes gets violated, and that part sucks. So that's why we're doing these kind of podcasts. I'm finally starting to be more out, and I want to tell people about it so that people can understand this sanctity maybe of what is being created,
Yeah. And Rob, I feel like you wanted to say something.
Yes, I was going to say that sometimes there's also misconceptions. Some people think like kink is just like especially like with BDSM, that it's like pure pain. Like they go as hard as they can. Like I want to say like there's like different levels. There's different like intensities, different speeds.
A lot of it's just
like,
sensory exploration.
Yeah,
period.
sensory. Like it's not about the pain; it's about the sensory.
Yeah, and it also doesn't have to be like most people think like, oh, everybody is nude, everybody is in like it, everybody does it the same way, but it's really about the individual and their personal preferences. Like you can go to a dungeon and be fully clothed, and that's totally fine if that's what you want to do. You could also go to a dungeon and be totally nude, and that is perfectly fine if that's what you want to do. You can,
or a costume.
If the dungeon rules allow nudity,
right? Like obviously it depends on the location, but like again, like it's about you and your if you want to be like lightly flogged,
if you want to be, if you want to be
it's based on
caressed,
yours.
if you want to be tickled, it doesn't have to be just pain. If you want, so that's sadism and masochism, but there's also bondage and discipline. If you want somebody to tell you to turn around and face the corner, or if you want to be like a human chair or like a table. But now I'm here in this headspace.
Please.
If I feel pleasure because I'm giving them a nice footrest, cool. It puts me into a meditative headspace. Usually at parties, I honestly just sit in all my clothes, and then a lot of subby people walk around and ask if I want a foot massage, and I'll usually say yes, and I'll just chat with my friends, and that is what my usual dungeon experience is.
You know what that reminds me of? Like, I was abroad once, and I was at a latex party, and this was my first exposure to latex, and I was like, I asked the people, like, why do you like latex? Like, tell me. And one of them said, I like feeling an animus, right? Or someone else said, I like how latex is skin fitting so that you can't hide. You're completely clothed, but you can't hide. And they like that headspace and that psychological like mind game that they're playing with themselves. And so intention, I think, varies
Yeah.
for everybody, and the expression, of course. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's good. Like we can all reach our intended results using whatever methods make us feel comfortable and whatever methods allow us to reach the space that we want to go to. And that's okay. And that's perfectly fine to be able to like explore and live that kind of lifestyle. And I feel like it's in normal society that is not okay, right? Like we are told that we have to behave a certain way, that we have to look a certain way, that we have to act a certain way. I know that like my entire adult life, my entire career, my entire childhood, like I was expected to be something that didn't fit with who I was, how I felt, how I wanted to feel. It never felt good. It never felt right to me. And like just being in a space that allows you to do all of that, even if it's not like, if it's not necessarily kinky, or if it's not like just being allowed to be you and to be like, I keep coming back to like being appreciated for who you are, and like not having these other kinds of labels placed on you, or these other kinds of expectations placed on you
It's
is something
liberating.
special.
Like
Yeah.
negativity.
Yeah.
There's no negativity there.
Well, there is sometimes like a negativity from people who don't understand you. But I think that once you're out, you make a deliberate choice like, okay, if you don't understand me, I'm not going to be in your life, and we'll both be better for it. Peace. So
Yeah.
it's very liberating to figure out yourself.
I feel like we literally just had this conversation like earlier today when we were talking about, you know, in our businesses, because we were talking about doing this podcast and like how being out like this could affect our individual, like what we do as for a career. And you know, it had to like, I had to remind myself, and in doing so like remind everyone else that like if somebody sees this and doesn't want to work with me and doesn't want to be a part of my life, then they're not my person.
Hi.
Yeah, like, and when it's your person, then they're not going to care, because
no, it's different than they're not going to care. If I see somebody that I didn't know was kinky come out and say, "Here's who I am," oh my gosh, now I'm obsessed with them. Like I'm they're my person. So it's more important than your people won't care. Your people will love you for it, for being out, because the more of us are out, the better the world is for all of us.
Yeah, I think a lot of like the strife and the wars and like things are fought because like we don't understand each other. We don't take the time to appreciate each other. We don't take the time to like look at another person and be like, oh, I love you for you. We're always trying to mold that other person into what we think they should be. And like if we were just all accepting of like, okay, this is who you are and that's beautiful, the world would be a much different place.
I hope that our people find us. If you are queer, alternative, kinky, polyamorous, whatever, shoot us a line. You can be private, but it'll be happy to connect. It'll be awesome to connect with you.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for the people that want to start?
Oh, that's a great question, because now that I've been out, all these people from different parts of my life are like, oh my gosh, Nyx. So where do I go? Like, I don't even know where to search. One, message me or anybody. Two, my two favorite resources. Should I say what the resources are? My two favorite resources are Bloom. That's a new app. It is a dating app, but it's not just dating. It's also just friend connections too. You can select, but it's an app that has people and events, and most of the events are educational. So they have like spanking 101 or like dominance and submission 101, all the way to like veterans parties of people who have been kinky. So all levels. And the other one is Fet Life. That is like kinky Facebook. You can make it private. You have to have one to get in there. So, yeah.
Although a lot of people don't like FetLife because of the explicit content that sometimes isn't consensual that people can send each other.
Yes.
But like the general consensus is that you use FetLife as like a research tool. You research what people are talking about.
Yes.
Events in your area, the community. Like, I personally wouldn't recommend it for like dating.
No.
Because
do
it's like,
not.
It's not very helpful, and like you can accidentally come across a lot of predators like that.
There's also it's very, that one can, like you said, can be pornographic. I personally don't like pornography with my kink world, but yeah, it's a good research tool because they have forums and discussions, and like it's sorted by topic, so you can find out. But yeah, and then also just you have a international audience, so I'm not going to give local, but there are local circles, especially in metropolitan areas. So find your local community and then hang out with those people. And there also are better events and then worse events. So if you go to a bad one, don't think that kink is bad. Just like find another one.
Yeah.
We've been to
Some
both.
awful. And some great ones.
Typically, what I learned, if there is gender pricing, stay away from it.
Yeah. That's how we tell them. If they charge differently based on what gender you are, it means they don't understand gender, and that's discrimination. Don't go to that party.
Okay. That's interesting to me because sometimes I gravitate towards that because I know that there's not going to, well, not necessarily
it's usually
gender.
a swinger party.
Right. You know what? It's not necessarily gender. It's more like if you're a single person versus, like, if it's more expensive for like a single person to come in than like a couple, I'm for that party because I feel like it weeds out the people that are just there to like.
Yeah, but that's not gender.
That's
That's not
right.
gender. That's
Exactly.
like buy 2 tickets, get $5 off. That's
right.
different.
Like I prefer parties where like, okay, couples are like one price, and then for singles, it's gonna be more expensive, and that makes me feel like
That's
okay,
a good rule,
the
gender
general
pricing.
like, you know.
No, usually they have single females come in free, single dudes come in for like $200, and
couples
are like $100, and then that just makes no sense. Don't like that. Also turns into having like a transaction kind of thing. Like people come with, I paid $200, so where's my single female I can play with? No, it's not. Don't ever go to a party with the expectation of participating either.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And it also leaves out like non-binary people and trans people and people who wouldn't normally like, they don't feel like they fit in the female pricing or the male pricing.
Yeah.
Like, it's very it excludes people.
That's a good rule.
Because we made that mistake once.
Yeah, we made that mistake. It was a very scary. I'm not a commodity. Stay away from my holes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like a good. You wanna make sure that you're doing it in a way that feels inclusive to everyone, and that does not exclude.
Yeah, I would say my biggest tip is to do research and to learn, because it's like, I feel like these topics are discourses in the community that people talk about on research tools like FetLife. You know what I mean? Like, yes, like you should be, going to events and such and learning, but you can also learn on your own and do homework, right? Like that's how I started. I researched a lot and I chose different sources, not just one, you know? It's like the same thing when like someone says something on the news and you're like, is this actually true? And you fact check it and you see what other people are saying, what the general attitudes are, and you keep your mind open for like different opinions, but ultimately you decide for yourself. So when you're deciding for yourself, you should do as much research as you can.
Yeah.
To get into these things.
I
Yeah.
think our conversation had a lot of good tips for beginners. I feel like we covered a lot of bases, such as giving your partner enough space to fail, but not be, I think we, not judging others when their kinks are different from yours. I think this was a solid, like, kink 101.
Yeah. Like, hey, this is like what we think. This is like,
Here's the parts of a scene, the negotiation. It's a plate sandwich, negotiation, scene, aftercare. It's always a sandwich. You need all three.
And aftercare is not just for the person that was bottoming; it's also for the person topping. So it works both ways.
Yeah, good job with the summary, guys.
yeah. I also want to like make a point because I feel like when you say domination and like and being a sub or something like that, like people get like a 50 Shades of Grey
No.
in their head.
No.
Like it's not
that.
that. It's not that. And like I have been in like dom sub classes where like the domination was like I was asking someone to compliment me. You know, like that's a perfectly valid,
That's hot.
right? Like who doesn't
Give me
want
a compliment
to have
right now.
right, like that type of a scene? You can 100% have that type of a scene, and that's okay, and that is like still part of the community, and like it's not what you read in that book. It is not what you saw in the movie. Like
Robbie just had he had a vocabulary thing that there's a difference between tops and doms and bottoms and subs, but that's cool. When they go on FET and they do their research, they'll learn all the differences. There's so much vocabulary. It's fun. It's a rabbit hole. Once you start learning, you're going to want to know everything.
A lot of things not what it seems through like media.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
Yeah, that's why we're here educating y'all.
yeah, like be open. Be open, and like even if it's not for you, that's perfectly fine.
Just respect us, please, or
Exactly.
just leave us alone.
I mean, I would like respect.
If
I
you're
think
gonna say
that's
something
important.
mean, just
And respect is you're gonna treat us how we want to be treated.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
All right. I think.
Treat me like a king.
But also, like, don't take our word as like the law.
Oh yeah, we're
Right.
not. Oh
Like,
yeah,
we're
we're
giving
not.
good tips, but like, don't just listen to us. Like, do your
Yeah,
own
don't
research.
believe us.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
I'm not like the kink. I am a kink goddess, but I'm not the kink goddess, y'all. So
Yeah. So like, figure out where you feel comfortable. Like, do your own research. Figure out what feels good to you, what makes sense for you, and like, that's your adventure. That's your exploration. Like,
Oh, I
you
like
don't
that
have to
word.
like.
That's a
Yeah,
good-
like
it's your journey.
It's your journey. It can have facets of our journey, or it could be totally different. And like,
It can belong to you and your partner, and then there's some places where you might branch off a bit.
yeah, and that's perfectly fine, and it's beautiful.
This is a good one. I hope you guys like this.
Yeah. So if you're watching this now or on the replay, you've got any questions, feel free to like shoot us questions. I will try to answer them as best as I can. I will, bring these guys into the conversation when I can, or if I have questions, I'll do that. Like, subscribe, share, do all the things. If you want to know more, if you want us to have like more of these kind of like slumber party editions, I would love to do that. It's really cool because we're all in the same space right now, which is kind of perfect. But like, maybe we'll set up like a different city, multi-location slumber party.
Yeah. All right.
All right, have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.